right. Thanks for tuning into this webinar, guys. I'm excited to talk about this topic because naturally podcasting is something I enjoy. So hopefully I can share a few tips about what we've picked up along the way and the way that you can use a podcast to start to create examples of initiative for yourself, because that's the whole purpose of today's webinar, to give you guys a really thorough roadmap and understanding of the things that you can do to create this experience for yourself, and then how you can talk about it in the future, as well as some of the key people that you should be talking to as well, so that we ultimately get to that end point of achieving a job in sport. So here you can see today's focus is right down the pointy end of the SportsGrad method to getting jobs in sport, and that is relating to the potential side of the equation. That is, capability and potential equals a job in sport. And so one of the key elements of potential is initiative. So as I mentioned, we're going to really flesh out an example and an idea that you can use to show your initiative in a really, really strong and thorough way. Cool. So at the moment, the problem for students at the moment, and why we're talking about this, is that the job market is extremely competitive, and standing out and finding ways to differentiate yourself is more important than ever. The other reason why we're doing this as well, and why it's one of the things we're trying to solve for, is that I talk to a lot of students. They've all got good ideas. A lot of them never get acted upon. So I'm hopeful that there's a few kind of really tangible and practical elements in here that will allow you to get started and understand what you need to do, so that you can see how it's going to contribute to your experience in the future. And then the third problem is that even though some ideas start to come to fruition, often to get the space and the permission to do certain things, there are gatekeepers involved, particularly if you're doing it through another organization. And you really have to find ways to bring them on the journey and show them why it's a good idea for them as well, because otherwise those ideas that you've got in your head, they're not going to come to life. So the benefits of doing a podcast, and why we're talking about this, is because it's really good for grassroots clubs to help them drive engagement. And what I mean by that is getting people involved at the club, making sure more people attend trainings, making sure more people encourage their friends to join the club, making sure more people attend events, making sure more people attend matches. Because when you have more people around the club, you get more revenue through ticket sales, through events, and then when that community and number of communities starts to build up, you can start to ask for more sponsorship. You can go to government and ask for larger grants if you've got more people at the club. And by doing this over a long period of time and sustained period of time, there are all these incredible benefits that increase the engagement within the club, increase the community within the club, that go on to drive revenue. And the other benefit of podcasting is that it's an extremely unique opportunity for yourself. So this is where the reason for yourself to do it comes in. There aren't too many clubs out there who have their own club podcast at the minute. So there's an opportunity for you guys watching this webinar to get started with your own podcast. It may be at a cricket club, maybe at a footy club, whatever organization, could be a charity that you're involved in as well. Whatever opportunity or platform there is for you, podcasting is an extremely unique one that has a lot of individual value. Cool. So the key outcomes for this webinar today are to, one, get approval to start. As I mentioned, there's a lot of gatekeepers involved, a lot of people you got to bring on the journey. And two, to get results for your initiative. We don't want to just start a podcast and have it fall flat. We want it to achieve something significant so that you've got something to talk about in the future. And then thirdly, once you've got the results and you've done it all, how can you leverage it to then find your next opportunity, whether it be a job or an internship or something else, whatever you want to gain from it? How can you use a podcast to leverage yourself? Cool. So we're going to start, we're going to flesh out this piece a bit because I believe it's got a lot of value for other things you want to do. And this is essentially putting together a proposal to the club to get your idea over the line. So I don't know if Ankit or Shekhar, I don't know if you've ever had ideas before that you've got a response that might have suggested, we can't afford to do this or we don't have time to do that. Have you had that in your experience?
Yeah, just recently in Pran, I'm having this experience of promoting sponsors. Like I have to tweet during the matches, like at different stages, 10 overs, 20 overs. And I gave a proposal like before the match starts, do we thank our sponsors once? So they said no, we are not allowed to do that.
Yep.
There are some protocols about doing it. And if
Yep.
you're using graphics, we need to use some methods.
Yep. Yeah, nice. How about you, Ankit?
I think yes. I remember. So I was working with Wayne on that app. There's an app in which I will be filming the players, but after developing that, it came at a cost, and which even our club and other clubs were not able to generate revenue. So we were like in a process of finding other ways. We have found a way, but we are still in. There's still a limitation because we don't have enough
Yep.
funds, community clubs.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's often the case no matter where you go, including at Cricket Australia. So when I was at Cricket Australia, that was constantly the case. And in fact, one of the projects that I'm most proud of that went on to receive significant budget approval for almost never happened because I was told to focus on my usual day-to-day job, and that we didn't have time to do much else. Now, this was a campaign called the #WatchMe viewing parties, and it was an idea that encouraged people in schools and in cricket clubs and in homes to come together and get behind the Australian cricket team at the Women's T20 World Cup in February, March earlier this year. But this wouldn't have happened unless I got approval from the key decision makers. So over a period of months, I set out talking to different departments and collecting information and building out a pitch for this idea that I had in my mind to go ahead. And if I didn't go through the process of planning and bringing other people on the journey and showing the CEO and the COO that it was a good idea and how it would help Cricket Australia hit its business objectives, then I would never have gone on to get approval for it and then have this example as something that I've been able to talk about that's allowed me to get other contracts and other different work experiences as well. And this is exactly the same in grassroots clubs. So your president or your treasurer controls the money that you need to get started, as well as the activities that are permitted to represent the club publicly. And so this kind of comes back to one of our previous webinars, how to leverage work experience for future success. And what you want to do is show that you're solving a problem and meeting a business objectives. So within Cricket Australia, the business objective was how can we leverage the T20 World Cup and encourage as many people as possible to watch it. And that was a significant piece on the scorecard of Cricket Australia's business objectives. And at the time, they didn't have a single solution that was entirely focused on that. So that meant that our idea hit the spot perfectly. So you got to kind of find what that is. And for a lot of clubs, it's revenue or it's players. And both of them are tied to how well you can engage people.